Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Project 818 SRX. I have been busy. I'm going to do this video a little differently. Excuse the mess in the garage, but whatever. It's kind of a theme in all of my videos. So I have been busy doing a lot of upgrades and fixes on the car. Some are going to be apparent, like the exhaust, some less so. So it's probably easier to just start at the front, work to the back. I might bounce around a little bit. I'll try to overlay some pictures and videos of a little more detail as I go, but I'm going to try to just fly through this quick. So up front, you can see right in there, we got a reservoir for a water meth kit. I added the water meth. It was water meth or E85. It was a toss-up. I decided on the water meth because the E85 is not readily available here. I'd had to store it. Probably a drum here in the garage. I do welding in the garage. Seems like a bad idea. And the water meth kind of eliminates the sealing on the build for power. But we'll get to that later. For the water meth, I will bounce back here real quick. I've got two nozzles installed. One is actually pre-turbo right now with a 250cc jet. And then one is just below this elbow here, which is new. And that's 1000cc. So the majority of the water meth is going to be going just before the throttle body and the elbow, but I do have a little bit of pre-turbo just to remove the sealing on the turbo and make the turbo a little more efficient up top. Okay, up front, so we've also got the pump in there, and then buried way in there is a fire suppression system. This is a home-built car. Basically, it's a kit car, but I mean, it's so far from the beaten path, and nothing really matches what Factory 5 had intended for it. I planned to track it hard. I just felt it was cheap insurance to do. So, bottles up there. The pull is just one in the center here. I've got two nozzles, one on each side for each passenger, and then we've got one in here pointing at the fuel system, and then on the other side, which is probably easier to see, there's another one that points right in top on the fuel system right here. So that'll spray in there right on top of the fuel cell. And then I've got one right here, which is spraying right at the hot side on the turbo. I've got one up here. Oh, sorry, terrible camera work. That sprays right on top of the fuel system, and one final one over there, which sprays basically on the battery and the coils in the electrical system. So in theory, you know, I see a Marshall yelling fire or flames, or I see the smoke myself in the mirror. I can just pull that lever, deal with the mess later. But I've seen a video of someone had an oil leak in an 818. They couldn't get the body panels off in time because the latches weren't coming off quick, and this doesn't come apart quick. And it just got ugly real quick, and they had to rip panels and tear fiberglass, and it was a mess. I want to be able to just pull that handle, get out. Okay, so that's our fire suppression system. What else up front? Okay, so I did upgrade the front hubs. So I had the regular Impreza 2.5 RS hubs originally on the car, and then I had 300 ZX brakes with STI rotors. So now I upgraded to the, well, I don't know if it's upgrade, but I installed the aluminum lower control arms from the WRX and the STI. And then I've got STI knuckles, STI hubs with the much better bearings that will be able to take track abuse. The same STI calipers, they were both bolt patterns, because now it's 5x 114.3 versus the 5x100. The wheels were also both. It was always a plan to eventually do this. And then the calipers are the big boy Brembos. So those are a little bigger than the 300 ZX. So it's the same caliper, or the same rotor, bigger caliper, slightly bigger pad, but still a 4-piston. Just like the back, but the back are the 300 ZX front calipers. So it's just they're both 4 pots, slightly smaller pad in the back, slightly smaller pistons. But that kind of rounds out the front. As you can see, the strings are out here. I'm just finishing up the alignment, but right after the alignment is the body panels, and I just wanted to, while everything was exposed, I could kind of show things off. Okay, let's go interior. So a few little things I got my water meth controller right here, and then my fire suppression, as I mentioned. I removed my EGT gauge. I had an analog EGT gauge, but I have installed a, see if we can see it in here, way buried in here, is a AEM CAN module. So now I am able to log my EGTs. I'll be updating the dash so I can show EGTs on there. And then I've added thermocouplers, pre-turbo, pre-intercooler, pre-throttle body water meth, and then I added one in the lower intake or upper intake manifold. So basically the airflow from the time it comes in through the filter to the time it hits the turbo, I'm going to be able to measure all the way along. I want to be able to see the effects of the water meth and tuning and in real time, and not with just a regular thermistor, but using the thermocoupler. I still have the fast acting thermistor in there right now, and that's still, as far as the ECU is concerned, that's still my intake air temp. I might change that to a thermocoupler in the future, but for now I'll leave the setup that works. And then one last thing in there, we also got a brake bias knob. So I always had the brake bias up front. It's actually buried right in here, and there was a knob up here, but that's not really practical. You want to be able to, not necessarily adjust on the fly, but you want to be able to adjust it from the driver's seat, make small changes to see the difference. So that'll just make that easier to dial in, but pretty much once it's dialed, that knob will never get turned. Okay, oh, and then a big one. So I had a push button. Let's see if I got it here. I had this style from, I think, Speedway for my parking brake. So I'm running front STI rotors, front 300ZX calipers in the back. There's no drum inside for a traditional handbrake. This car it's not going to be commuted. I'm not going to be parking this on the hills. So my plan was to just use this line lock style, where you push your foot on the brake, you push this in, it's supposed to hold brake pressure, and then I wanted to at least be able to park in the driveway here, slanted driveway. Anyway, that thing stopped working almost immediately. I could never trust it in the driveway, and I had to put a wheel chock in. So I now have a handbrake, and it's actually the Subaru handbrake, and it locks standard. However, that cable goes to a Willwood inline master cylinder under the center console. So it's actually a hydraulic handbrake inline, like I have in the RX-8, kind of drift car style. However, there's no intentions to drift this car or ever pull that while the car is moving. It's just the best option I had, and I'm hoping it'll work for what I need it for. So that seals up the inside. Now let's go to the back. Now, way back last year, I was having an oil leak. It was dripping down, and I was pretty sure it was the rear main seal. It was the rear main seal. So hopefully I had the picture that I can overlay here, but I had the RX-8 seal installed. I installed it. When I installed it, I bottomed it out. Now when you install an RX-7 seal, it's like twice as wide, and you do bottom it out, and then it's flush to the outside. When you install the RX-8 seal, you're supposed to install it flush to the outside, not bottomed out. So it simply never had enough contact patch on that tapered counterweight. Is it the counterweight? Yeah, I think it's the counterweight it seals on. Anyway, it was just an install error. It was never an issue with the seal. I did buy an RX-7 seal before I took everything apart. So that's what's in there now. There's nothing wrong with using the RX-8 seal. Just install it properly. The RX-7 seal just leaves less potential for installing it wrong, because you bottom it out and it's flush on the outside. Bingo bango. So that was kind of just a dumb mistake, but an easy fix. That solves my oil leak. Now, another big issue I had last year is I started, just in the fall there, I was driving it, and things were going good. So I started driving it in traffic, and I started driving it around town a little bit. And my God, it was loud. And I'd find myself when I see cops waiting at the light. Oh, it gets louder than I heard. It just barely idling. So I decided I should take this opportunity of the winter and build a new exhaust, which of course snowballed into a bigger project than I expected. So here is the new exhaust. I'm sure I'll be posting pictures of the process and whatnot over this, but the long and short of it is it goes from the turbo, quickly goes into a 4-inch. So it's 4-inch for this downpipe, which kind of actually goes up. And then right here, it bottlenecks to 3-inch. And I want to have some boost control, so I didn't want it to be 4-inch all the way through. I didn't have any issues with boost creep with my previous exhaust, which was 3-inch. So the 3-inch bottleneck was always designed. But the 4-inch downpipe will actually help with spool, because before there's any pressure built up there, there'll be less back pressure initially from the exhaust, because it goes into the 4-inch and it doesn't actually bottleneck until, I don't know, 3 feet in. So it goes to the 3-inch right here. So it's only 3-inch for about 6 inches. And then it splits into two and a quarters, I think. 2 and a quarters come down to 2 resonators. This is a vibrant muffler, by the way. And these are ultra quiet, vibrant resonators. It's all stainless. And then they come down to 2 3-inch tips, which I tossed and turned over their orientation. You can see they're both kind of pointed out. And once the body's on, you'll see why I did that. Coming out straight just didn't work, because the whole back of that body is curved. So this looks much better. So, lower intake manifold. I also swapped out my lower intake manifold for an excessive style. There's a number of benefits. Mainly, it's there's no emission stuff on there to block off. It's a cleaner look, but it's even runners to front and rear. The factory manifold is, which I do have right here, all covered in gold. It's not quite even. That's a terrible way, but you can see here it all kinds of twists to one side, and there's just a whole lot going on. With the excessive manifold, that's just not a problem. It's nice and symmetrical. And then I did clean it up a little bit, the casting with a grinder, and then port matched it and got it ceramic coated, and I got the top upper intake manifold ceramic coated as well. That's just the factory one. And I just grind off some nubbins, things that I didn't need with the grinder before I sent it. Now that does slightly relocate things. It moves things forward just a little bit. So my intake piping right here, my hot side, used to come through here, but, and I know at least one of my buddies, it bugged. He didn't like how it looked. And I kind of agreed, and I took this opportunity because it no longer fit in there to do the pipe just across the top, and it looks a whole lot more symmetrical. And then this used to be a big rubber elbow, but I wanted to put the water meth in there, and the nozzle is actually buried in under. You can't really see it, but can't put that into a silicone boot. So I put the aluminum elbow there, and then the vibrant clamp. Besides that, I did have an annoying issue where I couldn't always get the car in reverse, or if I did get the car in reverse, I couldn't get it into 5th and 6th. It was the reverse lockout. I had it on a solenoid that basically controls this little arm back here on the transmission. But I just never had it right, and the solenoid would stick, and it was a door lock actuator, I should say. And it just never worked right. So I just put a cable on it, and then the cable goes to this little lever down here. So there's no longer an issue. I'll be able to put it in reverse and put it in 5th and 6th. The little things, you know, that you want. So I did change my rear lateral links. One was adjustable via a cam bolt from the factory, and when originally installed in this with the Subaru parts. Now they're both adjustable. Not a big deal for improvement, except for if I decide to. I don't want to run these wheels forever. They're quite heavy, these XXRs. This was just what was in the budget at the time when I built the car, and the budget obviously has changed since. But this size and offset is a little tricky to find without ordering something custom, as opposed to getting these are 18 by 11s, but I can get an 18 by 10.5 in the same offset that's in a variety of lightweight wheels that I can use for the street or the track. So instead of running a spacer, it's provided there's enough room in the axle shaft, which there is in this case, because we're a little on the tight side. I'm using STI axles and not factory 5 ones. So I can actually take the whole hub now and I can push it out to accommodate for a slightly more offset wheel instead of running a spacer. So I can, it just gives me more options. And then, as you might have seen on my Instagram post, infinitely adjustable suspension, which is actually really annoying to dial in. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I've just finished in the front. I had a little more camber in the front. I'm about 2 1/8 degrees negative camber. I was at 1.5 before. That's just something that the new low control arms kind of offered, and I had to modify the bracket for the knuckle, which changed things a lot. So really don't know where I'm going to be with the alignment until I start seeing tire wear at the track. So right now, yeah, we're about -2 for camber in the front. The back, I'm going to try to keep around -1 just because it's such a wide wheel. I don't think I'm going to need a whole lot of negative camber back there, but we'll see. Front caster, if anyone's interested, is 8, which is really high for an 818, and I'd be happy to get into that if someone is curious as to how I accomplish that. But let's find out if it's a good thing first, because who knows, I don't drive the car enough. But I'll finish this alignment, and then fire it up, hear the new exhaust, then the body goes on, and I can be driving it. But yeah, I think I've rambled on enough. Hopefully this video style wasn't too annoying with too much moving around. Let me know in the comments if it's preferred, or if it was absolute garbage and you hated it and don't ever do it again, you're motion sick. I'd love to know. But until next time, peace.